Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And now to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program.
I'm moving forward. You guys know the deal. I'm a Devil. Let's go. It's on. To all those New Jersey Devil fans out there, let's go. I mean, I don't know. I'm with Red Bull. This is the closest. I don't got any merch yet. You know what? The Rock Prudential Center to support the New Jersey Devils. Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? I don't really know. This is the only thing I got. I mean, it's the Rock's logo, but do you smell what the Rock is cooking? I don't know. I got no merch. I got no memorabilia. I got nothing with Jersey Devils on it, but I just want to tell you guys, are you guys ready for the Subanator? Because I'm ready to go. Let's go. Lucy, we're going to Jersey. Let's go.
Hey, Sam, I got to tell you, I do a lot of hockey and I do a lot of podcasts and everything, and you guys have one of the best podcasts anywhere. It's knowledgeable, it's fun, and you do it right. So thank you for your time and for having me on the show.
Happy Devils Sunday! This is the longest intro to the Let's Go Devils podcast, Season 2, Episode 39, titled P.K Subban and Jack Hughes. On tonight, oh boy, it's a big podcast. Devils is it Devils Voice? The voice of the Devils on the Devils Hockey Network. Play-by-play announcer Matt Loughlin will be joining us shortly here on the Let's Go Devils podcast. Gentlemen, it took me 4 hours today to put that little intro together. Did you guys like it? I mean, we are the most
sweet, man.
We are the most knowledgeable and fun Devils podcast in the history of Devils podcast because our good friend Bruce Zeman from Vox Radio, NHL analyst, he said so. And I want to make that point because towards the end of the podcast, we'll be discussing about fun podcasts and knowledgeable. Although I'm really not knowledgeable prior to 2000. According to some. But anyway, we will get to that later. Guys, it is a very exciting Let's Go Devils podcast. Beer Baron, you look like you're all fired up. Shorts guy, you look like you're all fired up. I know Nick Villano, State of the Fan address, Pucks and Pitchfork is all fired up. All right, guys.
I might have to
what do you have
Jake
for me?
Wakely in the face. I'm going to say right off the top. His comment, Beer Baron's screenshot was clutch, like Mikey McLeod's tape job.
Agreed.
Dude.
That's the worst tape job ever. Worst tape job ever.
Jake, I like you a lot, but if it continues, I might have to punch you when I see you. Right in the mush. Only Shorts guy is allowed to make fun of me about Mikey McLeod, and maybe Sam.
Nah, Sam's allowed to as well. Sam,
that's
Sam's the producer. He's the boss. He's the boss. He's the guy that doesn't sign the non-existent paychecks for this podcast. So, yeah, it's
what a wild weekend.
What a great, what is it, 9:08 now? What a great 49 hours to be a Devils fan. It's now 49 hours since we've drafted Hughes. And then it's been an additional, I'm terrible at math, 24, 30 something hours since we've acquired P.K Subban in exchange for 2 picks and 2 younger players. I love that P.K Subban video too, that, he posted about coming here, which leads me to say right now, the first piece of Devils merch he should have is a Let's Go Devils podcast t-shirt. I want to make that happen.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen then.
So if any of our listeners out there, anyone, anywhere has a connection with P.K Subban and we can get a podcast shirt to P.K Subban, please be in contact because I would love for him to have a podcast shirt.
Maybe when we talk to Matt, maybe Matt has some kind of connection to him that he could send it out there or a connection, we'll wire it over to him. Honestly, like in the last my wife just gave me a throat slash and I have no idea why. Oh, it was unlocked? Oh, I left the door unlocked. So anyways, after I told her it wasn't. In this last weekend, there were so many questions that were answered that we didn't even think was a possibility. Like one of the things that we didn't think was a possibility was the Devils signing a top 4, defenseman. And after seeing the Rangers sign Trouba, we speculated would the Devils pull the trigger on that P.K Subban trade. Lo and behold, they have. And I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know whose jersey I'm going to get first. Am I going to get a P.K Subban jersey first? And I don't care if he's only going to be here for 3 years or if he's going to be here for an extended period of time. I absolutely love the dude. I always have.
Yeah,
and I'm so pumped that he's going to be a Devil.
Yeah, I am too. And I've heard a lot of positive from Devils fans, and I've heard some other things too. People bringing up that he's been traded twice in 4 years. Who my friend Matt, who is now watching, has brought up to me. There were some people posting about he was a cancer in the locker room, this and that. It seems like, though, from everything that I've been reading and the arguments that I've been looking at, is the guy likes to play hard. The guy likes the players around him to play hard. And he doesn't take it too lightly when the players don't, which I think is something that the Devils need. Mm-hmm. I also think that we have a lot of young defensemen who can learn a lot from him. Even though he is 30, and I know he's coming off of he had an off year last year. Sometimes that change of scenery is huge, and we've spoken about that with Corey Snyder. You know, if let's say the Devils were to find a place to trade him and a location to trade him to, you know, he may go back to that old Vancouver Corey Snyder because of that change of scenery. So
Yeah.
on
Hopefully he
paper,
does at
I think
home.
this is. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm really hoping that he continues on his continues to find his game again, becomes that Vancouver goalie that we saw.
The bottom line is he is the best defenseman on the New Jersey Devils right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I got some flack for saying on our breaking news podcast about Subban. And again, it's justified. Some of the arguments I've heard, it's justified. But look, he's the best defenseman on the New Jersey Devils right now. And that's the bottom line. They did not have to give up Severson. They did not have to give up other, like a Blake Coleman or some of these young types. So when I said that he fleeced them, it's basically it did not hurt the Devils short term. You don't know how Santini and Davies and these second round picks are going to come, but at the same time, Ray Shero is not in the business to rip off other GMs, but he's so damn good that he already fleeced 2 GMs already. So that's.
I'm sorry, Sam, to interject on you on the back end of that, but I mean, there's a couple of things that people have to keep in mind. Number one, Nashville, there's a couple of people, and I just saw even in our Facebook group, Joseph was saying that the worries me too, traded for an older defenseman and then traded after 3 years in Nashville. You have to understand Nashville didn't want to let him go, but they have such a solid defensive core. And at his price tag, it was kind of like you weigh your options. And if you listen to what the GM from Nashville was saying, he wasn't sitting there killing the team like, oh, this guy was such a cancer in the locker room. Oh, PK, we couldn't wait to get him out of here. It was quite the opposite. He was like, it's an unfortunate business decision. And that's what it came down to in Montreal too. In Montreal, it was just trading him for Shea Weber. It was want versus need. And Montreal thought that they wanted to get somebody with a little bit more experience, somebody that was a little bit more of a veteran, somebody that had more of like a veteran voice. And they thought, you know what, the only way we're going to get Weber is if we send P.K. Subban. So it's not like he was. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it was like they were trading. I don't want to say opposite pieces, but like for like pieces that one team needed, another team needed, and they were willing to swap. So you're correct there. It's. I don't know. You can continue your rant. I'll chime in when you're done.
No. That was pretty much it. That was just like it's an exciting thing to be a Devils fan right now because Jack Hughes, because of P.K. Subban. The Devils actually had a pretty decent draft as well. You think about it like this. They went into the draft with 10 picks, all right? And they left the draft with Jack Hughes, P.K. Subban, and 11 picks. So you got to think about it like that. Like and people were killing this trade because they were like, oh, Steve Santini is he just didn't get a fair shake, and Davies is going to grow into an amazing defenseman. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. You have proven commodity versus the unknown. You weigh out those options.
Yeah, and on top of that, real quick, Sam, on top of that, maybe, we don't know what the inner workings of the franchise is, and we see players for what we see them, during a prospect camp or during, a couple short shifts. Maybe with Davies and them, there was not going to be a spot for them in New Jersey. So why would you not? You know what? If you don't have a spot for them on your team and you can bring in an asset to benefit your team and give them another opportunity in a different city, I think that there's nothing wrong with that either. And like you said, they're unproven, whereas PK is proven, and we don't know how they're going to turn out, but we do know how PK Subban plays and how he will fit in. And again, everything that Shero has done so far is gotten right. You have to trust the guy.
Yeah, and I go ahead.
Sorry. I was waiting for my turn. Maybe I should mute your mic because I can.
You do it again, we're gonna have words.
All right. Well, actually, I'm going to mute you right now, Beer Baron.
You son of-
And Beer
All right,
Baron is
so-
gone.
It's kind of like
Talk,
that show. I
Sam.
forgot the ESPN show where he mutes it. But anyway, so I've muted Beer Baron. I actually had a very intelligent Facebook message conversation with Joe Stinson, season ticket holder of the New Jersey Devils, long time. And he made a great point because he took to, look, we like constructive criticism to what we say about fleecing the Nashville Predators. He made a great point. He said that $7 to $9 million a salary is valuable to the Nashville Predators in obtaining a talent like that. So, Beer Baron, your mic is unmuted. You two can go at it again. That's the point I wanted to make.
You son of a. It's funny because I was actually going to say the same thing because I see Joe saying in the Facebook group, "Stop Shero fleecing Pioli," because the Preds. That's a huge point because that's a big number, and that's going to give them the cap flexibility to try and get that winger that they desperately need, and to go after Duchesne, who they've been talking about for over a year now that they want to get. So it's not like the Devils like completely pulled the wool over their eyes like they did in Edmonton. Like, let's be honest, Hall for Larson was a straight up larceny, no pun intended. But I mean, this made sense. You're sending over a couple of prospects, you're sending 2 second-round picks, and you're getting a proven commodity in P.K. Subban, who, if you listen to his conference call that he had, or bits and pieces of that conference call, he's so fired up. And this is the kind of energy that you want to be injected into the team, because he's always talking about right now is, all I want to do now is win. All I want to do is win a Stanley Cup in New Jersey, because that's the one thing that he hasn't done. The one thing that Hall hasn't done. So let's do it.
Yeah, and we're starting to surround Jack Hughes with more and more experience that wants to win. And you get all these guys going in the same direction together, with the same goal of winning, which all the players want to win. I mean, that's without saying. They all want to win. They all hate to lose. Even though it is a business, they all hate to lose. But when you get this deep-seated conviction like we will win, that's worth its weight in gold right there. And when you get that type of attitude is contagious. And when you get that in, you're looking at a franchise that can go on and win, maybe not the cup every year as much as we want it. Let's be honest. But even if they go and win the cup 3 out of the next 5 years and they just have this contagious winning effort, man, that's going to be great. And on the other hand, too, P.K. Subban's got 3 years left in his deal. About the times they're going to have to pay Hughes. So he comes in, we start winning, we have to pay Hughes. You can say, hey, PK, we'll re-sign you for this and that. We got to sign, we have to re-sign Hughes. Like, you can work it all together if you want to keep winning, especially, if we can build this winning culture in this franchise, which is something that we've lacked, because all those wins or all those losses in the last couple of years, it's just been frustrating as anything. I think,
and you can imagine
the positivity coming in, I think, is fantastic. Anyway, go ahead.
I agree. No, I was just going to jump on and just say, like, you bring up such a good point that, like, that frustration that they feel, it's, as fans, we feel it. You know what I mean? Like, we always feel how frustrating a loss is, but imagine that, magnified times 100. You go into a locker room, then you have a reporter sticking a microphone in your face, and you have a bunch of goons on a podcast talking about, like, how much you screwed the bed. You know what I mean? Like, there's a level of frustration that us as fans can hit. And I don't think it ever compares to what a level of frustration that a professional athlete hits. You're not getting paid. You're not playing this game because you will like to lose, and you could see that in Taylor Hall's exit interview. Go ask Connor McDavid, who's the greatest hockey player outside of Sidney Crosby right now, and ask him how much he likes losing in Edmonton. And everybody that's saying that we're the new Edmonton of the East can go cram it right now. I'm so sick and tired of hearing people, the Washington Devils become the Edmonton of the East. I can't wait until we jump into the playoffs and start shoving it down people's throats. I'm a little fired up tonight. You can tell.
I can tell just a little bit. That and thinking about Snyder and the slide he's been on, granted, I never played a minute in the NHL, but I can tell you that as a goaltender, nothing is better than having a defenseman that always has your back. And Subban seems like he's going to be the guy. Not to say that any of the rest of the Devils defensive corps didn't have Snyder's back, but you cannot right now, from what I've seen with him, he's not even on the ice, but that attitude and just his nature. Like, how could you not get excited watching that video he posted yesterday? How could you not get jacked up for him coming here? Now, imagine that on the ice, and he's gonna have your back and say, "Hey, man, don't worry, man. We'll get it back. We'll get it back. That goal was our fault, not yours." And just having that character in your ear as the goaltender, going, "All right, well, you know what? I screwed up. However, they're gonna help me get it back." That's awesome.
Hey guys, we got a great guest on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline right now. We had Steve Cangelosi on Friday before the draft, and now we have the Devil's Voice play-by-play announcer, Matt Loughlin. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
Sam, I'm doing well, fellas. Thanks for inviting me to come on tonight's show.
Thank you so much for coming on, Matt.
No, it's my pleasure. What an exciting weekend for the Devils, and I think every Devils fan is pumped for what September will bring once camp gets opened and the players get together, and then the season shortly thereafter. I don't think Ray is done. I think there'll be some more moves, but boy, off of Hughes' selection and the Subban trade, the summer's off to a great start for sure.
Now, Matt, you bring up a great point with just that small sentence there of you don't think that Ray is done. Now, do you think that he's going to try to acquire somebody via free agency on July 1st, or do you have an inkling, like a feeling that he's going to be going after another trade?
Yeah, I don't have a feeling one way or the other, to be honest. Ray doesn't, bring me into the office to discuss his options. but I think if you look at hey, why not? I'd always accept the invite, that's for sure. But I think if you look at his past, trades are a little bit more the road that he follows. That being said, there might be that free agent out there. I keep referring to Gustav Nyquist when friends ask me, because it kind of suits the mold of a player who's got some speed, hasn't been hurt in his career, can pot you 20 goals, and certainly would add to the Devils' arsenal. So I don't know if there's going to be a big splash free agent signing, but I think that there could be someone along the lines of a guy like Nyquist, but I wouldn't rule out a trade either. So I've kind of answered. Ray could travel either road, quite frankly, but I think there'll be more to come from a Devils standpoint.
Matt, it's John. I was at the draft party on Friday, and I got to say the Devils got it right with that whole event, and you yourself looked like you were having a blast being up on stage, throughout the night. How special was it to get that, to be the host of an event just like that they don't come few and far between?
Yeah, no, it was a terrific honor, and you compare it. I don't know if you were at the one for the Nico Hischier draft, but it was a different vibe, not because of any other reason other than the fact we didn't have Championship Plaza available to us. It was just on Edison Place, and then there were people in each of the local establishments, and certainly that was a terrific night for the Devils. But I think people understand that, Jack Hughes has an upside that, as good as Nico is above that level. And then you combine the good weather, and it was so fabulous to look out from that stage and see a sea of red and black. And it was just really a great moment in Devils history, quite frankly, because not only did they acquire a guy who knows, I mean, the sky is the limit, but also just to see this fan base come together like that at that venue to celebrate Devils hockey, and gosh, it was just a joy.
It had an electricity to the air, like it was a celebration of the dark days are ending, because you got to admit the last couple seasons have been dark. It felt like a celebration that we're getting to that light at the end of the tunnel, and it was time to celebrate and just be excited to be a Devils fan again.
No question. I mean, obviously 2 years ago was very exciting, but your point is well taken. The Devils have not been playoff participants, and we've restarted the Devils podcast. The organization has kicked it off. Amanda Stein and I have done a weekly podcast since the end of the season called The Road to the Draft, but it will continue now that the draft has ended. And Ray Shero was our guest most recently, and I did ask him just that. I said, there's still work to be done. Again, this was the 10 days or so before the draft, and we know what lies ahead, but at the same time, you can start to see the pieces falling in place. We don't know what Jesper Boquist is going to eventually do, but they sign him, and Heischer's in his third year, and Bratt's in his third year, and you just could see with the players that they've been able to draft over the last few years, the cupboard's not as bare as it once was. I don't know what guys like Mikey McLeod or Nate Bastian ultimately will do in the NHL, but you start to see guys coming through. Ty Smith will be here this year. And I asked Ray, I said, you got to feel pretty good because you can see your vision starting to come into view. And he agreed, but he also knew there was more work to be done. And you never settle, of course, until you get your ultimate goal, which is a cup, which would be fabulous in the next few years or so. But yeah, it is very thrilling to be able to see what Ray and his staff have been able to do and pull the Devils out of those depths. And we took a step back last year, of course, but hey, it paid off with great luck in the lottery. And, hopefully we don't have that kind of a championship plaza celebration on a draft. And other than some team makes a trade and we win the lottery, let's hope we don't have the number one for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, what about a Stanley Cup party at Championship Plaza? That could be the next one in late June.
Well, that would be fabulous. That might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, but why not dream, right? And then I don't know if anyone had a chance to see the Mulberry Commons Park, which, the video screen on the side of the building on Mulberry. Well, directly across from that, phase one of what ultimately will be a bridge across 21 and to the Penn Station has been completed. It is a fabulous park. So as I left Championship Plaza that night, I walked through Mulberry Commons. I've been there before, but I wanted to just get a view from what it might be like if you could have 8,000 people at Championship Plaza, maybe close down Mulberry Street, have Mulberry Commons Park just packed with fans and really just take over the entire area. And it was pretty cool to think that might happen sooner rather than later. And for those who are listening, if you haven't checked out Mulberry Commons, next time you're at or near the Rock, do yourself a favor. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a fantastic downtown park.
That is one of the most exciting parts about all of this is how the downtown is really coming together and the Devils being the centerpiece of that. And that just even thinking about them having a Stanley Cup championship, a celebration in that area. As you're saying that, I'm sitting here with a big smile on my face, just with that anticipation. But I wanted to ask you, Matt, what is the one thing that you feel personally doing the play-by-play that you're most excited about this season? I mean, whether we have another trade coming down the pipeline or not, but as we sit right now, what is the one thing that you feel personally that is going to be the most exciting for you coming up this year?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because, of course, I've been texting my colleague Chico Resch, and we've just been talking about how the storylines will be better. And again, I go back to what a Mike McLeod or a Nate Bastian might do, who knows? But we saw something there in them, and we were selling that story. But there may be limits to where they wind up. There seems to be no real limit to what Jack Hughes can do. And Subban brings in a Norris Trophy caliber resume that the Devils haven't had in a long time. So, when you think about it, the storylines will be better. The anticipation will be better. There should be more of a buzz in the rink for honestly both home and on the road, because when you bring in the number one overall pick, and when you bring in an all-star and a Norris Trophy winner that you've made a trade for, and I don't know that, as I said, Ray is done, suddenly the Devils are a conversation piece. They're a team that you're going to want to come out and see. People are going to want to see, what's this Jack Hughes like? Can he make the transition from the United States national team as an 18-year-old to the best league in the world? And what's his learning curve? We've seen the highlights. We've watched his games, World Juniors and World Championships. But to see him in person, to see that edge work, to see that playmaking ability at top speed, I think people are going to want to come out and see him wherever we go. And so, yeah, it's going to be night and day from last year. Although, like all of us, right, we went into last year with a level of excitement that, hey, okay, there'll be internal growth and a second playoff appearance in a row will be forthcoming. Injuries and, issues in goal and on defense derailed that. But I think that, the storylines are just going to be so much better and so much more exciting this year.
Hey, Matt, how about the fact that it seems like with bringing in P.K Subban, we now have this charismatic player that looks like, for you and for Chico, for Cangelosi, for Danico, you're just going to have this new charismatic character to just get to know and interview on, daily or weekly basis. That's got to be exciting for you.
Oh, very much so, right? I mean, one of the things I'd like to see hockey do more of is have more personality. I get the history of it. It's not a sport that rewards exuberance, right? I mean, it's kind of hammering those guys who kind of go outside their lane a little bit and kind of hammer them back into place. And we love the game. It's a great game, and it's continuing to expand and become more popular. So let's be, and I know there are people who are listening, and maybe even you guys will kind of recoil at this, but let's be a little bit more NBA-like. Let's get the personalities out there. And a guy like P.K Subban certainly speaks to that, and he can do it on the ice, and that's the combination you want. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. Now, you'll have to listen to our interviews with him, but you know what I'm looking forward to? That first time he's voted the number one star at home, and Erica Watt with him at center ice or in the third of the ice, and just what he might say to her and how she'll bring out that personality, because that combination is going to be terrific. I think if you listen to what we do, you'll have some fun too, but the visual will be a little better on MSG Networks.
I gotta agree with you about bringing out the personalities in the NHL, and it's so funny that you say that, because if you've seen the commercials for the new EA Sports NHL, I think it's NHL 20 now, they have kind of highlighted a lot of that personality. They highlighted a lot of what was going down in Carolina, and I think that's such a great point. Like, let the players be players and let them have fun and let them kind of celebrate who they are as athletes. The Don Cherries of the world, as much as I respect them and appreciate them, I don't know if that's where the league needs to go, where everybody has to kind of fall in line. I think letting them express themselves is great. And I think you nailed it on the head. I think I can't wait to see what PK is going to do when he's selected the number one star.
Oh, and the crowd will go crazy, and he'll certainly bring even more energy and get them out of their seats. And listen, the other side is he's awesome off the ice too. And I've been reading and listening to some of the follow-up to the draft, and okay, this will be his third team, and this, that, and the other thing. Well, Gretzky got traded, and Messier played, moved around, so it happens, right? I just think he's just going to be brilliant for this area. I just think that the Subanator, right? I mean, like all that he's done already, like people have just, embraced his energy and his enthusiasm. So, I'm accentuating the positive. I mean, I think he'll have a bounce back year. He's banged up this year, and, it probably wasn't up to his standards, but, he's got a new life, and, I'm expecting really good things. I think it was a terrific deal, and all that stuff, the off ice, the contributions to the community, how much those two towns, Montreal and Nashville, loved him, I think speaks volumes about him. And so those who want to throw stones, you know what? I'm gonna protect, as if he needs it, P.K. Subban. I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table. And I think he's just going to be an enormous addition to the Devils.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I got to say this, I'm not a fashion person, but boy, does Subban know how to dress when he goes to a game. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. Boy, he does have a sense of fashion that does stand out. I would like to be able to wear some of the things that he does and pull it off, but I don't think it would work for me. But it works for him, and it looks great. So let's go. Again, I go back to that NBA thing, and I know people get offended, like those purists in the NBA. And by the way, I'm one of those guys who say they don't ever call traveling anymore. I get that, right? But
It's true.
if it gets more about what you're wearing to the game than what you do on the court, that's a problem. But we do need a little bit of that in our league. So, bring it on. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And, he can certainly bring that fashion sense with the best of them.
Now, just to ask a couple of questions that we have from our Facebook group. And first of all, I have to also mention how much I enjoy you and Amanda on your podcast. It's such a good listen. And anybody out there that hasn't listened to it, please tune in because it is such a good listen. But we have a couple of questions for you.
Thank you.
One of them being, do you see Ty Smith making the big club next year?
I do. Now, that's not a guarantee. He'll have to perform, and we have seen players, throughout Devils history, and particularly recent history, who, you thought, okay, they're gonna make the move. There's a spot there, and they just didn't grab it. But I do think the opportunity is there, and I know the organization is thrilled that he went back to junior, played the way he did, got more experience, and improved his game. And so, yes, I do think he will make the team out of camp. But should something happen and he's still a kid where he can't handle it, kind of falls a little bit, flat on his face, I think that there's a possibility he won't. But I don't think that will happen. I think that he will make the team.
Matt, another question from the group. Kind of a broad question here, but players drafted from between rounds 2 to 7, for essentially that were not Jack Hughes, all the other non-Jack Hughes players. Do you know anything about any of these players, or is that part of your summer homework? And the prospect camp is learning who they are and getting to know them, getting to know their pronunciations and stuff like that?
Well, check all of those boxes, all of the above, quite frankly. There's going to be a learning process. I think we all like to believe that we know the game and we have insights, but the fact of the matter is, after the first 30 or so players, it's really more based on some highlights, a few games you see, just because we're so busy during the year with so many games, travel and preparation for those games. So, there's not that real deep dive into junior players or draft eligible players. So that's going to be half the fun, getting to know them, getting to meet them. It'll only be in a couple of weeks where we'll be convening at Prudential Center at the Barnabas Health Hockey House, and looking forward to that, looking forward to the scrimmages and all that sort of stuff, and getting to know these guys. And then seeing somebody, I don't know who's been invited. I know there's an internal list, and that clearly at this point they know. But I am looking forward to see, in addition to our picks, who else is coming back and how they've matured from last year and how they've gotten bigger, and finding out a little bit more about them. But there'll be some homework done over the summer for sure.
Now, Matt, one of the other questions from one of our listeners, Robert Layer, wants to know how big of a step forward is the acquisitions that Ray has made this off season. Do you think it's enough to push the team into the playoffs for next year, or is that kind of wait and see kind of thing?
Well, I think we do have to wait and see, but there's no question the hand has been solidified. We're deeper at center. I have no doubt that Jack Hughes will be able to make the leap. Will he hit some roadblocks in an 82-game season? No question about it. He'll hit that rookie wall. It's the best league in the world, as I mentioned earlier, and as we all know. But look, the Devils down the middle look really, really good. I'm hoping, I think we all have our fingers crossed, that what's been done thus far will be enough to convince Taylor Hall to sign that extension once July 1st hits. He'll come back as a man on a mission off an injury-plagued year. So you look at the depth. I want to see what Boquist can do. How Subban, we know he's going to help. Defensive defenseman he is not, but he'll bring offense, and we know he struggled for goals. So I think there's a lot to be excited about, but I do think we want to see what else Ray will do. And as much as Corey Schneider, in my mind, answered a lot of questions about the doubts when he came back off the second injury and then playing in the World Championships, it's understandable, and I think we all, and I would include myself in that group, have a little bit of a question as to what we saw, is it real? If it is, that enormously pushes the Devils' chances further along. Mackenzie Blackwood we like, but now he'll come in not as a surprise, and there'll be a bigger workload, etc. So there are still a couple of questions, but I think as long as the team remains healthy, and I think listen, the division is really, really tough. So nothing is guaranteed, but it'll be a much more exciting season. And I wish I could say absolutely the Devils are going to make the playoffs. I think that just wouldn't be fair to the other teams because, as I said, the Metropolitan Division is tough. The Devils have, they finished with the third worst record in the league. But I don't think this will be a season where come January, you're like, oh my goodness, we got a long 3 or 4 more months. And it's going to be a race to the lottery. No, I think this is going to be a very exciting year. Hopefully it results in the playoffs because the place was jumping 2 seasons ago against Tampa. And I'm excited for the prospect, but I wish I could guarantee it. I just don't think I can.
Matt, another listener question from Jake Wakely, bringing up the fact that P.K. Subban brought up, a hint about going to New Jersey in the ESPN First Take episode he was on. Do you think that there was do you think that was just pure coincidence, or do you think there was something in the works already? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I don't know if he knew that there were conversations taking place, particularly between David Poile and Ray Shero. But I think that the way the world operates, you have your end of season meetings, and I'm sure David said, look, I don't know that for thus and such, you're going to be part of our team next year. At least the conversation was, listen, I may have to move you or somebody else. And so I think he probably could sense that there was some movement afoot. And then it doesn't take, a genius to say, wait a minute, David Poile, Ray Shero have had a relationship in the business and have made deals before. And you kind of just throw it all out in a little sense of hockey history. I love the comparison of course, of the Warriors to the Devils. So I don't know if he knew specifically that the Devils were his destination, but I think he knew that there was a good chance he'd be on the move. And you kind of look at some of the other things that are happening. And so let me throw out the New Jersey Devils. Why not?
So real quick, do you think with the Devils having Jack Hughes drafted and the Rangers picking second with Capo Caco, do you think that'll throw more life into a rivalry that, we already know is really heated and the fan bases absolutely hate each other? And, how do you think that's going to evolve that rivalry going forward?
It can't help but do anything other than make it more intense. The Ranger fans obviously love the guy that Jeff Gorton selected. He's got terrific talents, and they would like to believe deep inside that Ray made the wrong move. So I'm sure most Ranger fans are hoping, just like Fire fans are hoping, and we're hoping that Nolan Patrick would skip past Nico Hischier. So there's no doubt. There's no doubt that it adds to the rivalry. I think Devil fans can't wait to see Jack Hughes lead the Devils to victories over the Rangers and to show that as good as Kako will be, and I don't think there's any doubt he will be, that Jack Hughes is that special talent. Somebody, I'm trying to remember. Oh, before we went out to Championship Plaza, as we were getting ready, Corey Schneider, Ken Danico, Andy Green, Kevin Rooney, Mackenzie Blackwood, myself, we were just in a room just getting ready to go out. And Dano said, look, I've seen people say that Kako reminds them, compared him to Jaromir Jagr. He said, Jaromir Jagr is a great scorer and a Hall of Famer. He was unbelievable. But he didn't necessarily make the players around him better. He certainly took their passes and scored, and he was a great scorer and a Hall of Famer. There's no doubting his skills. He said, my observation is Jack Hughes makes everyone around him better. That's why he's the better selection, in my opinion. And I think that would be pretty cool, right? I mean, if the Rangers can get a guy who can score 700 goals, but the Devils have a guy who can lead them to Stanley Cups and makes everyone around him a little better, that's the best of both worlds. So it's a long answer to your question, but yeah, it definitely enhances the rivalry.
So just to kind of piggyback off of that question, because I posed this question on social media the other day or yesterday. Now that we've always had this rivalry between the Rangers, but now that you have the number 1, number 2 pick, and it kind of revitalizes this rivalry, and hopefully both teams start to come back to prominence. How nice would it be for the NHL to recognize this and put an outdoor game at MetLife Stadium between the Devils and the Rangers and be the showcase for the outdoor games? I think we need to get a grassroots program or something to put it out there for the NHL to finally get this one going. But what do you think? How awesome would that be?
That would be incredible. And having been involved and having the privilege of doing the game at Yankee Stadium, though it didn't end the way we would have liked, that spectacle is fantastic. And the fan base would go crazy. And I think it may not happen this year, but assuming these two players can play up to their resumes, and assuming each team continues to build, given the rivalry, given the New York market, I think Jack Hughes is going to do is going to take the Devils out of some anonymity, right? I mean, we love the Devils, and we've always thought they've gotten the short end of the stick from the national media, from, to a degree, the NHL. Why aren't we on national TV more? And this was even when they were better than the recent years. And there just seems to be that big brother, little brother, and who are the Devils, etc. I think Jack Hughes has changed the mindset of a lot of people, including those who sit in the league offices. So I think, assuming he lives up to what he has done and the hype, and that's maybe the wrong word to use because he's so skillful, I think that's a very real possibility that we'll see something like that in the near future. I certainly think our friends at the MSG Networks are going to have a few more nights off this year. Because I think, and I think Devils fans will appreciate having Doc Emmerich calling some games again. Steve Cangelosi is a dear friend, and he does a great job. But we know how much Doc Emmerich means to our fan base. I think we're going to see Doc in the building again, or at least doing some Devils games, because my guess is we're going to be on that national TV schedule a little more often.
Matt, I have a final listener question in regards to Jack Hughes. Do you think that Sini will give his number 43 to Jack, or do you think Jack will take possibly a number 6?
Or 86.
I mean, I got to imagine that if Hughes coming in will basically have the pick of the, whatever number he wants, regardless of who has it, unless it's retired. We're not going to give any of the retired numbers.
Yeah. No, we're not doing that. And Andy Green shouldn't have to give up number 6. So the captain shouldn't have to do that. So, but here's the one thing, right? And this is the thing we like about hockey and we like about sports. Yes, Jack Hughes could very easily demand 43, but that's not the way it works, right? So he's going to take whatever's given to him. However, hockey being what it is, Brett Sini understands what that number may mean to him. And so I think it'll all work out. It's funny. Well, tomorrow, Amanda and I are doing a podcast with Jack that I'm not sure if it'll drop tomorrow. I believe it will, because Monday's been our day to release them, but we're doing it very early in the morning because he's got some other media obligations. So that will be a question we'll ask. I'm sure he's going to poo-poo it and say it doesn't matter. It does bear watching, but it won't be 6. It's not a forwards number, really. Charlie Coyle looked strange with the number 3 when he was playing in Minnesota. So I think if he wants 43, he'll get it, but he won't demand it because that's not what hockey players do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Matt. And Matt, thank you so much for, taking the time out in your busy schedule with everything that's gone on, coming on to our Let's Go Devils podcast. And by the way, since this is your second appearance on the podcast, congratulations. Once you hit that second mark, you are now a regular, but always a good friend of our podcast. Thank you, Matt.
All right. Well, guys, thanks very much. And Sam, I appreciate it. And anytime, I'd love to make it number 3.
Okay,
hey, all
great.
right.
Hey.
Thank you, Matt. That is Matt Loughlin, the Devil's voice. Play-by-play announcer on the Devils Hockey Network, now doing a podcast,
which
with
is really
Amanda
good.
Stein, which is awesome. I mean, not only do they have access, but Matt and Amanda are very professional. They work hard at what they do, and I'm going to keep on listening. I was glad to hear that Matt actually said that they're continuing that because they have billed it as the road to the draft. So I wasn't sure if they were stopping there, but it's good that they're continuing that, and look forward to that as well. Great stuff, Matt Loughlin.
We should have asked him if they would want to have us as a guest on their show.
I was about.
I think we dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Damn it! All right. Next time we have him on, we'll have to ask. We'll put him on the spot.
Yeah, but like when do we get on that podcast? Yeah, you've been on the podcast
hey, look at these
2 or 3
guys.
times. Yeah,
right. Give you
which by the way, I got to thank the listeners, viewers right now, because I want to spit out a couple numbers about this Let's Go Devils podcast. We were looking at numbers because the traffic to our podcasts in the last 3 or 4 days got me thinking. So, number one, we came off of our little hiatus. We weren't expecting this to rip off 4 podcasts in 3 days and be on the front lines of everything. And with terrific news. But want to thank you because there's a couple of interesting things that I've. Number one, this is for Jake Wakely. The number one country listener of our podcast is obviously the United States. Do you know who's number 2?
Australia.
The country, Australia over Canada. Australia over Canada. So Jake Wakely, if you're listening, which I know you are, you better get off your butt and get all those Canadian Devils fans listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast. Because when I saw Australia, and Stephen Monroe actually messaged me during the podcast, hey, you guys do a great job from Brisbane, Australia. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Stephen. We really appreciate that. And also, another interesting country, the United Emirates, I guess in the Middle East. Yep. I don't know if people out there.
Military. That could be military members.
Oh, we love our
contractors over there. So, yeah,
absolutely. Listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast. Also, we this weekend, I think we exceeded over 10,000 combined views over YouTube Live, Facebook, and Periscope Twitter, which is amazing. Also, lifetime views, we hit over 150,000 since we first started November 17th. 2017. Awesome. So it's pretty awesome. We never knew that it would grow this big, but we really appreciate it. We can't do these things and these live events without you. And also shout out to Melissa Dawn She couldn't be here for this weekend because she had some things going on, but we want to thank her too because she works hard behind the scenes. Because anytime we need something, we're like, Melissa, get me a power play goal. And the Devils score. I swear to you, it always happens. She works hard at that all the time. But yeah, so that is good. But I don't know. I think,
dude, I do have to. I do. No. I just want to say something. Yeah, I got a little beef, man. I got a little beef. My knowledge. I'll just say this, okay? Because when you get challenged on something, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just sit back and I'll be like, you know what, you're right. I'm a very humble human being. If you ever meet me in person, you come up to me and you're like, hey, man, you know, whatever you don't know about politics, I'll be like, you're right. I bury my head in my sand. But about Devils hockey, saying that we don't know anything past 2000. If you want to sit down and have a one
prior 2000,
pre 2000, thank you. Yeah, if you want to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation, I'll blow your mind about the type of knowledge that I have. But I'm not one of those. I'm not going to be one of those nerds that's going to sit here and spout off every statistic that I know off the top of my head. I'm not going to sit here and tell you about the origin of the team or where they came from and all this other kind of stuff because everybody already knows that. I don't have to sit here and prove myself. But if you want to sit down and you want to have a conversation, I'll have a conversation with you. We'll have a little one-on-one. We'll sit down and I'll school you. I'll take you to school. I'll bring you back and I'll bring you back to school.
Yeah.
I'm keeping this very PC because I got fired up when people start to challenge our knowledge or challenge our fandom. Get out of here with that.
You know, we don't challenge people's knowledge. I mean, Joe Stinson and I actually had an intelligent conversation. Disagree with him, but doesn't mean I hate him. You know, and he also said that I should start my own podcast because we don't know anything. Well, number one,
cram it with walnuts, ugly.
No. See, we got to kill him with kindness. If you want to start your own podcast, I totally encourage it because I'll tell you what, buddy, the one on YouTube Live, that first name is Felony for whatever reason, but first name Felony. You want to start a podcast? There are potential career opportunities here at the Let's Go Devils podcast. We can help you along. And if you need listeners, I'll listen to it. And then I could be the troll that trolls you. So anyway,
positive. Let's spin back to the positive. David Decker, we love you too. Just saying.
Yeah. Yep.
Our boys giving us a lot of positive feedback. David Decker, you're the man.
Also, Bruce Zeman just entered the chat room, but in honor of Bruce, he did say this on our last podcast yesterday, and I will replay that again. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I screwed that one up. Hold on.
Hey. That's all right. I just had to get that off my chest. I'm sorry. That bugged me before, but that's all good.
Hey, Sam, I got to tell you, I do a lot of hockey, and I do a lot of podcasts and everything, and you guys have one of the best podcasts anywhere. It's knowledgeable, it's fun, and you do it right. So thank you for your time and for having me on the show.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. So I've been playing that on a loop in my house all day long, and my confidence is so high because
even David Decker taking shots at Mikey McLeod's tape job. Listen, guys, cut the kid some slack. All right, he can't tape a stick, but he'll be all right. You watch when he's a perennial all-star. You guys will all be saying sorry.
We got to get Mikey McLeod on the podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
We should.
I've been trying to get P.K. Subban and Lindsey Vaughn. I just started. That is my mission for this summer. Let me ask you, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Periscope and Twitter. Do you want a P.K. Subban, Lindsey Vaughn interview? And I'll even shoot really big. How about we have a live event with them at Tavern? That would be cool.
Yeah, dude.
I know we're dreaming. But hey, PK, we're sending messages, smoke signals, Twitter messages, whatever to you. The offer still stands. If you want to come onto the podcast, we'll welcome you with open arms, and also we'll teach you a little thing or two. It's Taylor Ham.
That's the main one. It's Taylor Ham.
Joseph just said, let's have him live on the on the podcast and do a tape job live.
Oh boy.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Oh
All right.
my
So,
God.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at all of our the feedback on Facebook, and Matt wanted to know what we thought about the other draft picks. And it's funny, I think Shorts Guy nailed it on the head before. Is we need to kind of like sit down and take a look at like everything from what I was reading, and this is an honest assessment of what the rest of the draft is. And all joking aside, it seemed like the Devils picked a crop of very capable and decent players. There's not a lot of like home run hitters in this group that they picked, but I could be wrong. There seems like there's a lot of very safe bets, a lot of really good solid players, a lot of kids that have a lot of upside. There's a few that I forget who I was reading was saying that there's a couple of kids that might surprise you in the later rounds. God, if I'd have to I sat down and like wrote all these notes and I forgot to bring them out. But anyways, I really feel like picking two defensemen back to back, and right off the bat after they traded away the number 34, I feel like they're restocking. They're doing the right thing. They're getting the right players. They're bolstering their farm system. So, I don't think anything is going to shock you or overwhelm you, but at the same time, I feel like they did a good job. If that helps.
Shorts Guy's mic is cut because he had to leave for a second. Sorry about that.
All right, am I back? Who do I look like?
Yeah, you're back.
Who do I look like? Beer Baron? You got to cut my mic? My God.
Yeah, seriously, what the hell?
I don't know if you guys saw it. This I thought was really cool, and I actually ran out to get it earlier. The Star Ledger today. The front fold of the sports section is P.K Subban, which is rad. Even better, back of the sports section, full page.
Nice. There you
Jack
go.
Hughes. So I thought that was pretty cool. Welcome to New Jack Hughes. Welcome to Jersey. You know what? A full page ad to welcome your first overall draft pick to into town. I think it's fantastic. Especially because the NHL doesn't really, and the Devils, like Matt was mentioning, doesn't really get the mention it should. I mean, it seemed like in the sports news earlier in the week, Thursday night was the big NBA draft in Brooklyn, and then they made mention about the Devils and Rangers having 1 and 2. It seemed to be like an afterthought.
How it always goes.
I know it's how it always goes, but to have a full page welcome, I think the Devils have so far done everything correctly right now, from the draft party to picking Hughes to obtaining Subban for not much. And then it might be a small thing, but you know what? You got to impress this kid. He is 18 and things like this are going to impress him. Full page ad in the biggest, the biggest, one of the biggest, if not the biggest paper in the state. I think it's pretty cool. So good on the Devils for what they've done. Cause we've been, there's been a lot to criticize about the Devils and the way they've done things, but you know what? Right now they're doing it right.
Hey guys, I see a question, Gary. I wanted to ask you guys actually, your thoughts on JQ, John Quenneville being traded. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out. I think.
So I said this to you when I called in. Was it yesterday? One of the things about John Quenneville that I was always hopeful for that kid. I was always a big fan of his. I always thought he had a ton of potential, but he never ever achieved it in the NHL. He would light up the board in the AHL, and he had the dynamics of what you would want to see, but I mean, not for a fourth liner or a third liner. So giving him a fresh start somewhere else is not a bad thing. I feel bad that it never worked out for him over here, but you trade him for a guy that's a typical kind of fourth line guy. So you're not wasting a spot on a kid that you have higher hopes for, but say la vie.
It's it's a business, and it's sort of like any other job in that respect. Sometimes you just need to move on to go to a different place to do better and to flourish. And this move may be that move for him to flourish. And we wish nothing but the best for Johnny Quenneville. And I hope he does well, and I hope he makes the team in Chicago, and I hope he has a good career. It just seems like, with all three of the younger guys that Shero shipped off, just they may not have been in the cards for the Devils. They may not have been in the plan for the Devils, but the three of them have new opportunities that they have to seize, and this will make or break their careers. I would imagine, there's a new opportunity to impress and to make a new squad, which is great. Good for them. Good luck to all of them.
There you go. And I do have to agree with something that Shorts Guy said too about the whole draft party and how they did that right. The one thing that I was like so nervous about, and this sounds so stupid, but the camera cutting back to New Jersey during the draft and seeing like 6 guys standing around like a barbecue pit where they're like, oh, this is, and we're going to go live to New Jersey. And it's like, oh God, dang it. Like what a terrible representation. The fact that we had such an awesome party. There's so many people there. If you watch the video of Jack Hughes after he was drafted, he was like, can I see what was the, what did it look like? What was the whole party look like? And he saw a video of Championship Plaza, and he was so jacked up and he was so fired up about that. And I thought that was so cool. Like that you were 100% right. They totally nailed it. And, Amanda Stein, Matt Loughlin, their podcast, they've been doing an incredible job. She was doing awesome out in Vancouver covering the draft. It's just overall their media department really nailed it.
And you want to know what I don't get? And this always happens. It blows my mind. There were people in Ranger jerseys there.
Always.
Why?
What? Because
yes, there are people in Ranger jerseys there.
Always.
And and I'm not going to call him out on it, and I didn't call him out there because he's a real good friend of mine. One of the food trucks is owned by a friend of mine. He's a Ranger fan too, and I didn't want to say anything because he's making a living doing that, and it's a fantastic food truck. But yeah, there were Ranger fans there.
You know what?
I don't know why.
If our podcast was doing a live event at that draft party, I would have totally played this for all the Ranger fans.
We all know how it goes.
Yeah. Yep. I won't make that mistake again.
Everything's gone well this weekend. I usually at this point, and Beer Baron will agree with me on this one, because of our jobs, and we enjoy summer. We enjoy summer a lot. I am, for the first time in a while, usually I hate when people post, oh, can't wait for hockey season, can't wait. I, for the first time in a while, can't wait for October. I am excited.
I agree, 100%.
For October 4th. I will be there on October 4th. We will hopefully be announcing at some point over the summer a Let's Go podcast event very early in the season.
Yep.
Which we have to organize. We have to organize.
By the way, guys, I just want to let the viewers and listeners know of this podcast that this week, a lot of, we're going to do our best, but we're going to be on standby in case there's any trades or signings or whatnot from July 1st on. I talked to Nick Villano. I think July 1st, the podcast will be the State of the Fan address will be on standby the entire day, July 1st, with anything breaking. And then we are going to probably do a podcast at a special time, probably 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday night on July 1st. So we will be around. Look, we took a month off, but man, when it started to heat up, I didn't think we would be ripping off 4 or 5 podcasts in 3 days, but we did it, and it was awesome.
This is what the 7th hour of broadcasting in the last 48 hours.
Roughly? Yeah, something like
sounds
that.
About right.
Yeah.
I mean,
go I was just gonna say because we did the hour in midday Friday. I think it was like 3 hours on Friday night with the plethora of guests, and then we did 2 hours yesterday, just over 2 hours for PK Subban. Another hour plus tonight, man. And yet I'm not sick of you two, which is great.
I mean, so Christopher asked 24-hour free agency frenzy podcast. Yeah, we could probably do that. 24-hour.
You know what?
Podcast. It might get a little weird at points.
I will make a pledge. I will make a pledge. If Ray Shero gets Connor McDavid, we're gonna do 24 hours.
Dude, I would personally go to everybody's house and do a podcast in person.
Which, by the way, the Let's Go Devils podcast is available for any bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, any kind of summertime fun, 4th of July
an open
party.
bar.
Yeah, as long as there's an open bar and there's some cash for us because we're raising money for our $35 million jet for the Let's Go Devils podcast to bring our fans. It's not just us. It's bring our fans to Devils road games and watch our team and then just annoy the heck out of the opposing fans. How do you do that? You go to our web store, go to facebook.com, at Let's Go Devils podcast, shop now, buy some t-shirts. We need to sell 1.7 million t-shirts in order to raise that type of money for the Let's Go Devils podcast. So I think we're done here, boys. Great podcast. We'll be back potentially tomorrow in case there's more breaking news.
Yeah.
This and that.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Everyone set your Facebook accounts for Let's Go Devils podcast notifications to be alerted if we go on randomly with breaking news and we broadcast a podcast. Set all your notifications for the Let's Go Devils podcast to alert you when we go on. That's your best way to listen right away.
Yep,
exactly. Great idea.
Exactly. All right. Well, like our long intro, we'll have a long outro to the podcast. I want to thank all our listeners. I want to thank special thanks to Matt Loughlin and everybody that joined the podcast tonight. Till next time, let's go Devils.
With the first pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program.
I'm moving forward. You guys know the deal. I'm a Devil. Let's go. It's on. To all those New Jersey Devil fans out there, let's go. I mean, I don't know. I'm with Red Bull. This is the closest. I don't got any merch yet. You know what? To the all the fans that go to the Rock every night, the Rock Prudential Center to support the New Jersey Devils. Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? I don't really know. This is the only thing I got. I mean, it's the Rock's logo, but do you smell what the Rock is cooking? I don't know. I got no merch. I got no memorabilia. I got nothing with Jersey Devils on it, but I just want to tell you guys, are you guys ready for the Subanator? Because I'm ready to go. Let's go. Lucy, we're going to Jersey. Let's go.